Morning.
All right, hello, welcome to our last meetup of 2017. We're just going to go right into what's new because we have a lot to cover. First up, we'll be talking about the new iOS 11, tvOS 11, watchOS updates, also macOS High Sierra updates. We'll be talking quite a bit about UAMDM, including going over it for those of you who are not quite sure what that means yet. We'll be talking about the new iMac Pro, and of course, Secure Boot that comes with it. So then, as usual, we'll talk about the Office updates that have happened since we've been away, Jamf Pro 10, security roundup of things that should be of note, although there will be some mixing and matching of that this session. We'll have some items of interest, and we'll talk about some of the conferences. And lastly, we'll just have the open discussion. But leading off with iOS 11, while we were away, there were a couple of updates, 11.1 and 11.2 and 11.2.1, and a few other minor point updates in between. But the big thing, there's obviously new features. I think 11.1 brought over 700 new emojis for people who are into that. But there was also a lot of security updates. Particularly, there was the crack update that affected every Wi-Fi device ever made. That was finally patched in 11.1. Well, partially patched. I should say partially patched in 11.1 because not all iOS devices were patched initially in the 11.1, but everything got it in 11.2. So so if you're running iOS 11 or anything less, you really should be running 11.2 if your phone could support it. Because even though it's not exploitable, hasn't been exploitable yet, it could very well be. So better safe than sorry. tvOS also saw iterations, 11.1, 11.2. Again, lots of bug fixes and performances. It's 36 CVs affecting 9 different processes, especially including the crack fix there. watchOS also got the updates as well. Again, also crack there. So like anything that does Wi-Fi had to be patched for crack. Then finally, after like many years of not doing anything, they updated the the airport base station firmware. There's 2 different patches, one for the ones that support 802.11ac versus the 802.11n and lower. But this closes 2 major vulnerabilities that were out there. This closes the broad pwn, which allows them to do send malicious code to the chip itself if you're within a certain range, and of course the crack vulnerability as well. So if you still have some airport base stations, I know there's still plenty out there, make sure you update these as soon as possible. There was a lot of questions about whether or not Apple was going to go ahead and update these. I think the initial reaction for Apple was like, yeah, they don't really need it. And then a few weeks later, they quietly pushed these updates out. So, yeah.
I just looked up.
Yeah. They just patched that in those updates.
I don't know if this. Did Apple officially know the base stations? Like, are they going to be?
Are they going to rev them
at all?
They still haven't said.
Okay.
Are they still for sale downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They still have stock in them.
Just wondering.
I haven't heard if they're going to rev them. Well, maybe they'll just quietly rev them at some point next year. Or make them go away entirely, which is within the realm of possibility. So, High Sierra. While we were away, High Sierra 10.13 was released, which fixed a lot of things, but it broke something very, very major. So the IAM root vulnerability. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically there was a regression that allowed anybody to enable the root user by simply just entering root with no password through a variety of different applications, either through directory editor, through ARD, through the login window. So yeah, this was kind of problematic. And Apple released a couple of security updates to go along with it to patch that. Initially, they only released a patch for 10.13.1, and the initial patch for that also broke. What was it?
File sharing.
File sharing for some users. So they had to release another patch for 10.13.1. So the build numbers were iterated twice. But the and then I think a couple of days after that, they finally released a patch for 10.13.0, which also iterated the build number. But they did not. They didn't apply the patch to the Mac Apple Store build or to the updates for 10.13.1. So you could go from 10.13.0 patched for IM-root to unpatched 10.13.1 if you update it normally, and then have to reapply the patch there. So, but on the other hand, they fixed the file vault to recovery key bug. That was a lot. That wouldn't allow. That would basically, if you tried to reissue a key, it would fail and then delete the recovery key that was already there entirely. So they fixed that.
What would you have to do? You have to decrypt, I guess, and then re-encrypt to get a new key?
Pretty much.
Oh, that sucks. Oh.
Yes. Also, would not be escrowed either. So, yeah. So they fixed that. Also, 10.13.1 patched all the crack vulnerabilities for anything like that. So that's it was also patched for Sierra and El Capitan, specifically for 10.12.6 and 10.11.6. So you needed to go to anything less is not patched. So that means Yosemite, Mavericks, whatever. So if there's any of those in your fleet, you want to make sure they're at least up to El Capitan 10.11.6 if you're all at all concerned about this vulnerability. So 10.13.1, aside from introducing the IM-root, actually closed a lot of open CVEs against Mac OS. 152 of them, which is, I think, one of the largest ones we've seen so far. And specifically, TCP dump, the process TCP dump by itself, got 90 CVEs closed. So, so, and again, as Apple keeps, just they do more security updates for the current operating system versus the other ones. So if you're at all concerned about security, you obviously want everybody to be on High Sierra and at the latest patch, provided they don't break things like they have been doing. And we can talk about everybody's QA problems in the open discussion. So, but since there's more, we also got 10.13.2, which came out recently. Highlights include improved SharePoint performance using LTM credentials. This now fixes the long-standing bug of where if you change your password outside of users and groups, the file vault password doesn't get updated. In 10.13.2, this is supposed to resolve that as well. So that's a big plus. If you have any home home directories on Windows or SMB mounts that end with a $sign, 10.13 improves performance with that. Also, if you have proxies with packed files, there was a bug that prevented the Mac App Store and some other daemons from launching. This has a fix for that as well. Much smaller number of open CVs closed in this one, affecting more processes. Now we come to some of the meat of things, something I really want to spend some time on. This is UAMDM. Stands for User Approved MDM. For those of you who don't know what that means, Apple will be implementing a new feature coming in the spring of 2018, where where any non-DEP enrolled MDM profile will now require user approval in order to be fully functional. You can kind of see it here, but if you look closely, you can see that if this was a non-DEP enrolled machine, you see a little warning triangle here. And then the actual profile itself, you have to go, and the user has to click approve. And then you get full functionality. If you were here last time, you were talking about user-approved kernel extension whitelisting. And this is basically the mechanism that they'll be using to implement and enforce that. And with UAMDM, Apple has been saying that there will be more settings for us to manage that will be only available through this. As I said, non-DEP MDM enrollments will now be using this forward. So if you don't have an MDM currently, or not using one, and you want to not have to tell your users to go ahead and click approve, or tell your text to, like, oh, before you give it to the user, make sure this has been, you click this button, then you might want to start looking into having an MDM and getting all your Macs enrolled into DEP in order to, going forward, in order to sort of keep the smooth, seamless, automated transition for deployments. So the good news is that once they're going to say they're going to enforce this starting in the spring, so that should be maybe 10.13.4, I think we are thinking about. So but they have said that any Macs that are currently enrolled with an MDM profile will be grandfathered in once they upgrade. But any new Macs, like if you re-image a Mac on 10.13.4, that will still be subject to user-approved MDM if you're not using a DEP process. As I mentioned, the UAKEL, user-approved kernel extension whitelisting, is the first of the managed settings available. So, if you have that configuration profile, that should whitelist any of your third-party kernel extensions. And Apple, as I said, indicates that other settings will be coming to UAMDM. Personally, I'm hoping for being able to prevent moving mail from Exchange accounts in mail. So I imagine that's probably one of the things they might be looking to add for this, and things that we currently can't manage, they'll probably offer the ability to manage through this mechanism. So yeah, if you're not on the DEP train, now is the time to start investigating and seeing about how you can get systems on that. Unless somebody comes out with a way to actually automate user approval, which is entirely possible, but we have a couple of months for somebody to do that. But at this point, it doesn't look likely. So this is the wave of the future, essentially. And this has been where Apple's been pointing us. So the links at the bottom are both to Apple's KB about the changes that are definitely coming, and also a more direct description about what this means from Simple MDM on their blog. So next up, we talk about the iMac Pro, the new shiny. So 5K, 27-inch Retina display. The standard comes with 8-core, 3.2 gigahertz Intel Xeon. With the optional to get a 10, 14, or 18 core your choice of the big at 56 or 64, 8 versus 16 gigs of RAM on the video card. You can get 32, 64, or 128 gigs of actual RAM. You can get a 1, 2, or 4 terabyte SSD drive on it. Also 10 gig Ethernet, which I think is the first computer to come. That's not a server to come with 10 gig Ethernet.
First Mac anyway.
Right, yeah. I mean, non-server class anyway. Yeah, I don't know if there is a 10 gig Ethernet available.
There were cards available for the X-Serbs, but it was never an onboard option.
Right.
Those
Okay.
10 gig switches.
So yeah, and of course, the Magic Keyboard with a number pad, because people like number pads, and the Magic Mouse.
And it's a Pro, so you have to have a number.
Well, yeah.
I hate not having them.
So, of course, it starts at $499. So it starts at $5,000. But if you price out everything on the Apple Store, you can max out. I think it maxes out at like $13,400. So.
Yep.
Yep. But that's not the big thing that comes with the iMac Pro. Secure boot. So, so this is essentially another of the iOS macOS convergence, part of that, their conversion plan. So we saw a bit of that with the Touch Bar Macs because they introduced the Secure Enclave to a Mac, which is the first time that's ever happened. Regardless of how well you like the Touch Bar or not, the big thing there was the Secure Enclave. And that paved the way for Secure Boot and will pave the way for Secure Boot in the future. So essentially, Secure Boot means is that, like the iOS devices, the OS is signed and certificates and keys, I believe, are checked and embedded within the Secure Enclave. So the OS is completely trusted so you completely could trust the OS coming from Apple. As opposed to now, where you're just hoping nobody's messed with it since it shipped from China to you. So, so this is the first Mac to ship with Secure Boot. So, and as I mentioned, does very similar to the way iOS devices currently do. It comes out of the box with the default setting of high security, which means that you will not be able to netboot a iMac Pro out of the box. So out of the box, any traditional imaging technique you had that relied on netboot, be it VDSPY or anything, or Deploy Studio or anything like that, or Imager, that's no go. So you actually will have, you would have to, so your choice is either netboot or Secure Boot. You won't be able to, you have to pick one. Also, it requires internet access because it needs to update the embedded OS on there, or may need to update the embedded OS, which is what the Secure Enclave runs on.
It's called the T2 chip.
Yes, the T2 chip. Yep. Mentioned you have to pick one. This also means that you won't be able to boot from any external drive either. So external hard drive or a thumb drive, right out. So if you want that ability, you would have to turn Secure Boot off, essentially. And also, should something happen where there is, like the embedded OS gets corrupted, you would have to connect it up to another Mac with internet access and use Apple Configurator 2 to restore the firmware, like you would an iPhone or an iPad. So, and you could also install the OS at that point too, since you already had it hooked up. But at the very least, you would need to do a firmware, to reset the firmware, etc. So, brave new world.
At least we don't have to use iTunes.
Yes. And of course, more information is that link on Apple's knowledge base. But that is, so this basically means that this is the first Mac that's coming with it. But this will not be the last with it. So within the next coming years, probably as soon as next year, like at WWDC, they'll probably announce secure boot for the MacBook Pros, the MacBooks, maybe the MacBook Air if that continues to live, and any other, and Mac Minis if that also continues to live. So, so if you're still relying on NetBoot for a lot of your imaging and deployment, again, this is another warning sign that those days are limited. So again, if you're not using a depth deployment strategy right now, as soon as the holidays are over, it will probably be a priority going forward, because those things will still continue to work now, and for all the older hardware you have on your fleet, but within like a year or 2 years, 3 years, this is going to be the new reality. So, moving on. So, Office. A couple things to talk about here. While we're away, on Office Rev twice, 1540, 1541. Normal fixes that are released, as well as some additional features available to O365 customers only. Details and more at the link there. But the big news is that they'll be iterating the version numbers. And this will be a major version iteration. They're going from 15 to 16. Primarily, it's because they've migrated a lot of the Windows code into the code base for Office 2016 as part of their continuing effort to level the user experience across all platforms. So, so this is part of that. They've also announced that Office 2019 will probably be a more unified release across all platforms as well. And I'm sure we'll hear more about that next year. Again, so there's more things coming. This is a big thing. I think for any automated tools you have, like Auto Packager, or you're running any sort of scripts that check on that, most, like, the versions should probably pick up. There's some keys that don't change and still refer to the old version number, just for transition's sake, to make it easy on everybody. Some other things may change, so you may need to check scripts or anything that checks for something static there. Also, Skype for Business, even though it has a very limited shelf life, is again updated, bumped up again. Office 365 people have a couple more features available than on-prem clients, but that's nothing new. Moving on to Jamf Pro, Jamf released Server 10 on Halloween. Appropriate.
Yep. You were scary.
You can make your scary jokes in your head. So, one of the big things is obviously they're renamed all the associated apps to Jamf instead of Casper. So it's Jamf Admin, Jamf Imaging, Jamf Recon, etc., etc. It's a brand new web UI with features like breadcrumbs, new keyboard shortcuts, new dashboard, and all that. So it's a very different look and feel from the prior much needed refresh. If you talk to anybody who's been using it for more than 10 minutes. So
not totally changed. There's still some things that look like 9, but it's
the overall organization of it is very similar, but it just definitely has a very more modern look and feel. One of the big things obviously now is patch management. In version 9, it was just patch reporting, but now you can associate packages with a particular version number and have either a automated update with where you can set dates for how long they can defer, and after that date, it automatically happens anyway. Or you can set it up as a self-service policy, and in self-service, which is also new, they'll have an update tab so they can look and see what's, yes.
Oh, nice.
So, so they can see
self-service.
they can see what available on their system that they has updates available. So, as I mentioned, there's new self-service with you can now brand it with your company logos, images. You can have a logo at the top along with a banner image. Looks pretty nice, actually. So, where the old self-service was more iTunes, new self-service is more Spotify. So,
if anybody wants to see the differences, I have both of them.
yeah, we can go over that in the open discussion.
Yep.
And of course, lots of product issues and defects closed. The link will go right to the link goes right to their page for that. Of course, we've also got 10.1 that was released actually a couple of days ago, last week. The big feature there is Microsoft Intune integration. That's something we talked about last time we were here. Microsoft and Jamf announced a partnership where Jamf is now the preferred MDM and management system for people who are using Intune, and the Intune EMS, they call it, Enterprise Mobility Services. Essentially, it's an integration between Intune and Jamf. Intune will integrate with Jamf to pick up things like inventory and application status. So then you can use Intune to do things like conditional access for applications, or mainly for applications. So Jamf reports the status of a machine to Intune. Intune says, okay, you're good, and pushes back. It'll also do compliance checks. So if you're missing something, Intune gets it from Jamf, and then it's presented with a page through the Intune client saying, hey, you're not compliant. You go install this, and it'll take you to self-service to install something for that.
Is that working in real life? Because Intune was a disaster.
They did updates for Intune for that. I think it's the Intune process just came out of beta, like maybe last week or the week before. So I know people have been testing this. It's something we're looking to test probably next year. But yeah, this is something.
What do you have for managed mobile devices? You using Jamf?
We're using AirWatch.
Using AirWatch, so am I.
So for all that. But anyway, one of the other things for if you're using Jamf for iOS devices, they have enhanced configuration profiles for Cisco AnyConnect, and also further VPP account enhancements. Also, they introduced a bug, or found a bug, where mobile device smart groups weren't being calculated properly, which, if you have a lot of iOS devices, I'm sure were a very large problem. But they released 10.1.1 Monday, so that fixes that. And of course, a link to all the closed features there. So the security roundup slide is a little incomplete because there was a couple of things that happened today that I did not get to, which are now out of my head. But the big one is the OS X variant discovered, and this piece of malware. The variant discovered is actually it's like more adware, this version, and the company behind it is like is very upset that it's been that people have been saying, what are you doing? This is malware. So so yeah, there's more details from it because he's been this has been his baby for a while. So he has a very detailed write-up on that, and most of the details I don't remember because I was putting these together slides very last minute. The other is, and I think this happened again this week. There was a serious vulnerabilities found in all the Adobe Creative Cloud applications 2017 and earlier, like facepalm bad
Major
security,
major memory corruption.
major memory corruptions. Yeah, so remote exploitable, that sort of thing. Reading up on this one, Adobe, because Adobe has not found any examples of where this has been exploited, they're not considering this an immediate threat. But they do say that you should update to 2018 as soon as possible. So, but they're not saying, oh my God, patch this now. So your security people might, but Adobe is not.
And their recommended method is to remove the old versions.
Yes, completely remove every
And then install latest.
version and install 2018. So,
Because that's easy.
yeah, because if you deploy Adobe Creative Cloud in this sort of fashion, you know how daunting that will be. So, but there you have it. Going with Apple's recent QA issues, there was also a HomeKit vulnerability that was described as having a very secure door but no walls around it. So. So, and there was a couple other things today that, again, I saw, but I did not get a chance to add, and now I can't remember them. But, it's in the security channel in the MacAdmins Slack. So, what else? Monkey 3.1.1 was released. The big thing here was it adds product ID to distribution packages for customized High Sierra installs. So there's a command in the StartOS installer. You can add packages to that, but it needs the product ID in order to actually, I think, install properly. Is that right?
I haven't actually added any packages.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so you customize the install, add a package to things like a local admin, a package that creates a local admin account, but it needs the product ID for it to actually install it. So, the 3.11 update does that. And the other thing that's been in the news lately is how the internet has discovered that Apple throttles performance on older iPhones and iOS devices to preserve battery life. So, which apparently is a horrible, horrible conspiracy. How dare they? But
The reasoning is pretty sound. It's just people.
well, yeah, I mean. So, yeah.
Solved with one little box that says don't throttle.
That's all.
Yeah, so it's a combination of like Apple's reasoning is sound, but they didn't tell anybody.
Right.
And so now everybody's like, what are you doing? How dare you? So,
Alt-right on that top of that.
right.
Don't throttle.
So a couple of conferences coming up. The most immediate one is MacAduck, which is in Leicester, in United Kingdom. I think that's like a little north of London. I'm not sure. So, but yes, it's in the UK. So if anybody has a very generous travel budget, definitely go to that. So probably not anybody here, but we can dream. The only other, and between that, after that, is the Mac DevOps YVR, which is in Vancouver. It's stated for June 7th, but I think it's like 2 days. So, and that's should be right either before or right around, or maybe right after. No, probably be either before or right around WWDC 2018, which has not been announced yet. But that's coming too. PSU MacAdmins, which we all recommend you go to, since Philly people tend to have a bit of a presence there. So that's July 10 to 13. It's a general MacAdmin conference, not a vendor conference. So it's people all over the world show up at that. It's definitely been a very, very good conference and getting better every year. the quality of the talks has been increasing every year I've been there. So. And Amp Nation has already announced their 2018 conference, and I messed up the dates. That should say 23 to 26 on that. So, and the early bird pricing and for $40.99 for registration ends on December 31st. So, if you're looking for a conference to attend, those are some of those ones. A lot of the other conferences haven't announced their dates yet, so I'm sure that by the time we meet again next year at some point, we'll have more information on those. Yes, if you have a travel budget or can get a travel budget, plan on attending at least the Penn State MacAdmins conference, since it's the most local and easiest to get to. Generally speaking, it's relatively cheap as far as expenses go, so especially from around here. And now we can go right into the open discussion. So.
I looked at that monkey thing. It was mostly a bug fix release,
Right.
3.1, but that one thing about the product IDs and distribution packages, it's for the scripts that make a monkey package. I think it's for.
Okay.
I think it's dep related.
Oh, right.
I don't fully understand it.
That's right, because packages installed by dep require that ID to be in.
That's correct. That's correct.
In the info P list.
The thing for us is that it respects, if you say a configuration profile requires a reboot, it actually respects that.
Right.
3.1, I guess there was a bug. Well, we ran into it because our AD profile requires a reboot. So it would install, fail to install, and it would just sit there at the login window and not do anything. Manually rebooting it fixed the problem. That was a good bug fix.
So, okay, I'm going to say, so who currently has a dep deployment strategy that's not at all concerned about UAM and UAK right now? So who is planning on going to a dep deployment strategy before this spring?
I would hope. You're not? You don't have dep yet? Or?
No, we just got dep enabled this month. So I think they're starting, so all new purchases for us will be dep enrolled automatically. And we're starting with 6 months back for historicals. And we're doing this along with an entire infrastructure migration that's happening at the same time. So
how long does that take?
What?
Like DEP, did you have to get your procurement people involved and everything like it?
It could be. If you're not already enrolled, which we were already enrolled because we do dep for our iOS devices. So the vendor we use for Macs was already enrolled as a vendor for iOS devices. So it's basically just calling up the vendor and saying, hey, start enrolling all of our Macs, please.
Which vendor do you use?
SHI.
Oh, use that. Okay.
So yeah, the SHI has been really good about this, so they know what they're doing.
So the question I have is probably mainly for the education people in this room, which is the majority right now. And you raised your hand saying you're going to be dep ready by spring. As somebody who does manage, say, 500 Macs on campus, and we do image them annually, how are you going to be updating your systems throughout campus? Are you going to be pushing upgrades in place?
We've been doing that for a few years now.
And you have no problems with corruption of applications, like applications just not working, because with the problem we've had in the past is if we do an upgrade in place, a lot of our not a lot, but some of our mission critical software in our school, but causes problems. It will complain, it didn't work, or audio software is a really finicky one where if you upgrade in place, things just seem to forget where loops are or something.
You have to re-image basically?
That's why we reimage. It's just easier. We literally just, and it's also automated for us. So we have 500 machines across 3 buildings. When we want to reimage, we send out, we just set up a policy for the computers to reboot it, and that boot they image, and they reboot in the morning, and they're done.
You can't do that with touch bars now.
We did that manually before. One summer we went to every computer and manually added NetBoot. I made a package. We booted it manually to NetBoot every computer, and it basically whitelisted it, and then just rebooted. So the next time we reboot it, we just send out the command to bless and reboot.
What's your strategy with touch bar MacBook Pros if you have them?
So
They're
the
not
good thing is
rebooting.
that laptops we're not worried about, because laptops are for faculty, staff, and things. So those get touched anyway. So when we give that to somebody, we set that up. Not me, but
I'm not even imaging them. I'm just doing a policy over an OEM.
So we image them because that's just how they've done it for now. However, we're going to move away from imaging now that we have DEP working in-house. We've had DEP for a while. It's just that a lot of our systems are so old that they're not in DEP.
Excuse my ignorance. So you could set up DEP with whatever apps and stuff and everything you want. It just comes down. Or how does that work?
So how we use it, how it basically just enrolls it into the MDM. That's all it does for us. I mean, we don't use Flashlight.
When you roll, you can do dep enrollment. All dep enrollment does is just point to your MDM server, and then the MDM server does all the heavy lifting at that point, whatever that is.
Meant for end user setup.
Right.
It's not meant for lab.
Yeah, it's meant for giving a laptop.
Do that at all.
It's not for giving, like,
Until I have
It's
to.
make,
Right.
if you do one-to-one deployments, dep is
Or is
one-to-one.
Oh, one-to-one's fine, yes.
Yeah,
So
that's what it's for.
like, so you would like how would that work? Like, so, like,
you give
like,
somebody a box.
give someone a box,
Yeah.
you would log into the DEP.
You give someone a box, they power it on,
Yeah.
it goes up, the setup system comes up,
Yeah.
starts going through its thing, and then if it's enrolled in DP, it says, oh, hey,
You have configuration available.
there's a configuration
And
available.
from there, whatever configuration, it points to that server, and then whatever
Yep,
configurations
we're
you
gonna
have,
configure this, yeah.
policies, scripts, apps, whatever, it'll all come
So
down.
you're next to the Jamf, then you get enrolled, the Jamf binary gets installed, it does all the heavy lifting.
One sad aspect of it is that you can skip it.
Well, you can mark it as not.
You can mark it as not.
Can you do that with Monkey too? Can you go right
You
to
can-
the
you
Monkey
can- you can
repository?
skip
Yeah.
it.
Monkey Design Network. So you
Yes,
and then
yes.
skip it.
Yes. Yeah, you're not going to be able to, because you can currently skip dep enrollment if you don't have any network connection whatsoever. But that's getting increasingly hard to do.
Especially with secure boots. You
Yeah,
have to have it.
and with Secure Boot and with the Touch Bar, those require internet access basically all the time. So.
So yeah, I mean, so that was basically what I'm wondering is how are we doing it? If you're doing upgrade in place, I mean, okay.
I've never gotten that to work.
Yeah, well, that's the
Yeah.
thing is
I've
every
got-
time we've had it, we've had nothing but issues. So we just found that imaging is just way easier.
Adobe says
because,
goodbye. Good for you.
We have a webcam. Yeah, so I mean, DEP for one-to-one is great. I have no problems with it. It works fine for what we do it for. Works great on iPads for us. It's fine, but when you have a lab of 30 machines and we have 20 of those labs, what am I supposed to do? I keep, if it's like, oh, upgrade in place, okay, that's great, but what happens if all of my software breaks? Or if, I don't know, I mean, if something happens, if it gets interrupted, I don't know.
We guys have a template.
Well,
Or Adobe comes out and then kills everything.
So
That doesn't make
I
sense.
think you're going to have to go back to touching them in the future.
Right.
Just going, well, unless they come out, like say 10, 14, give us the erase all the content.
And that's what I'm hoping to go with.
And we can do that remotely.
So what I'm hoping to go with is what iOS has with MDM and with iOS in general, basically where if you're enrolled in an MDM and you have UA MDM enabled, if the user enabled it or if it's basically been grandfathered into an MDM, there's literally that button in there that says revert to factory or whatever. You hit it, it reboots the computer, it does the same thing that an iOS device does. It just reboots it and it's empty. It's not really empty, it just revoked all the keys.
Yeah,
but it's empty.
There's a lot of speculation now that we have APFS that in the next next version of Mac OS, there will be a separate user partition, which will contain user data and any third-party apps that they install. So the OS will be completely separated from that. So they'll be able to offer, essentially, erase all contents and settings that way, like they do on the iOS devices.
I just have that feeling that we're going to have that valley there where it's like, oh, we're here right now.
Right.
Imaging stops.
Yes.
And then you're going to have that year where it's like, now what the hell do I do? And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, here's the solution. But you're going to have that year of
Yeah, there's going to be some growing pains.
Yeah,
Or upon restart, or upon restart, restore it
Yeah.
and then put it in the.
Or I just stay on 1012 and
That's
not
where you are.
Yeah, we've
all
been
of our
using,
stuff works on
we've been
1012.
using Deploy Studio forever.
Right.
Yeah.
And after the last meeting, that's where I was like, this is a great meeting to go to. Because
Is it like
it corroborated something that I heard was a rumor
Yeah.
about APFS.
We haven't done anything on it, so.
Spoke to the Jams people and spoke to Apple reps.
Right.
So we were looking at, we are enrolled in DEP, but it was our desktop support group that did it. They enrolled because they wanted to cover all the faculty and staff machines.
Right.
So, but they enrolled the entire university. We don't have an MDM solution at Temple. And they started to go down that road, our desktop support group. They didn't include us. But now that we know about what's coming down the pike, that Deploy Studio is pretty much dead,
Yes.
and imaging is dead, that we need to find a new way. So it's interesting to hear that,
Even somebody who has the solutions is still having trouble. It's mainly because Apple, as we know, doesn't really give us a roadmap. They kind of just say,
Yeah.
hey, we're doing this.
I mean, they've been
Okay.
much better about it in recent years
Yes.
than they have been in the past. And usually, it's like they still don't have a roadmap. They've been telling the SEs and the sales guys, when you talk to your customers,
Dumb imaging's dead.
mention you might want to start getting them to do these things, because this is where things are heading. But yeah, no roadmap. So.
You guys on my campus?
Yep.
But they're at least giving us some sort of warning ahead of time. Although a lot of the warning is actually coming from the MacAdmins Slack with guys like Pepine and Groove and Frogger digging into the weeds and saying, oh, hey, look, there's this little feature here that indicates that we might be getting a secure boot soon. I think Pepine divined that from like the original High Sierra and Sierra betas as they were going on.
It's been like my main source of where's Apple going? Is because if he says it, it's like, okay, it's probably going that way.
Yeah,
Which channel is it
and a lot of there's some
everywhere.
and some of the other developers like the big name developers, the community famous developers. They've been talking about this stuff as well. If you're not on the MacAdmins Slack, that's really where you need to be, because that's where a lot of these people are, and that's where a lot of this information gets posted first before it hits Twitter or blogs or anything, or Facebook or anything like that. So, so it's good to be on the MacAdmins Slack.
I'm trying to think what I found out about a couple of things on the MacAdmins Slack before they got like big in the public. So you'll find things like, oh man, this is going to be a thing, and then like an hour later, it's like, oh, it's
I am Root.
Yeah, I am Root.
I followed that for a good 2.5 hours before it broke out into even just the Mac specific. News.
When that happened, there was like the big collective crap. and then it was like, and then Rich was like, here's how you disable this temporarily until Apple comes to fix. It's like, yay, Rich. And then
Savior again.
yes, and then and like the next day, Apple's like, here's a fix, quick.
Here's a fix that
Fix it,
breaks
patch
everything.
everything. And the next day, and then it was like, oh, but you broke this.
It's the second time they've used the force update mechanism.
Yes.
The other one was via the time zone.
Yep.
Right. So
Was that 10-4?
that was a long
Yeah.
time, right?
I think it was like
Basically,
3.4.
they have a method of pushing out updates where you can't ignore it. It just installs.
They
It's
do
just
that
telling
for-
you
they
we
do
are
that for
installing
critical
this too
updates,
bad.
and they use that for Xprotect.
Yeah.
A
It
lot.
gets installed in the background and
Right.
it tells you, hey, you were updated, and it doesn't require a restart, which
So yeah,
just came out in the middle of the day.
So I have two questions.
Randy, it should have required a restart.
For the MacBook Pro Touch Bars, has anyone had success with any type of USB-C dock?
Yes. Not a dock, I have a breakout box.
Yeah, when we say docks, we mean breakout.
What, a port replicator?
Yes.
CalDigit has.
I have one.
They're USB-C, and I think.
They wanted me to use Dell's and it didn't
Thunderbolt
work.
3?
I'll show you what I use.
Which one? Because CalDigit has both USB-C and Thunderbolt 3.
Right,
Yeah,
the Thunderbolt 3
line.
Yeah, the Thunderbolt's docks are always better than the USB docks.
Yes. The Thunderbolt 3 down.
Well, is that what you're talking about, Thunderbolt 3?
Yeah, Thunderbolt
This?
3, like there's a Thunderbolt 3 Dell that didn't work at all.
Okay.
Like 16,
Yes,
didn't work
it
at
does.
all.
Yeah, it does.
So,
Here it is.
but-
So this is the one I'm using. It's by Dodo Cool. No branding. But
Yeah, it's one of the Chinese OEMs.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it works.
I think
perfectly.
Elgato
See that
has
link on
a
Slack?
decent
Thanks.
Thunderbolt 3 one.
Yeah.
I
That's the other
am
one.
Temple Dave. Okay.
Actually, I'll show you one.
So,
Because we've had, I'm not dealing with 6 adapters per deployment. That's just not working.
This is what I have.
How much is it?
$40.
Oh, that's nothing. All right.
I don't know about that.
I bought a
For the-
$300 OWC one that is just awful. If you're plugged in, you disconnect, then you reconnect, you've got to pull the power and
That's
plug it
fine.
back
Give
in
me the
before it
check.
starts responding again.
That's been a common issue with their docks.
With OWC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at CalDigit and look at, what's the other one? Elgato's good. There's another one. I'm trying to remember what it is now. Can't remember. I'll have to look it up. I'll throw it up on the Slack when I find it. Because I've been looking into this because I need to
What's
replace
on
this
there going
beast.
there? This is your HDMI or just whiteboard or?
Whole home infrastructure I need to update for Thunderbolt 3
Okay.
USB-C.
Yeah, that's, this whole year has been trying to find something that works.
It's perfectly fine for me.
I think we're still
What if you have
We're still using the Thunderbolt 3 to 2 plus a Thunderbolt gigabit adapter for NetBoot, because I think with the because the third-party USB-C, the gigabit Ethernet adapters stopped working on the
Not all of them do
2017
that.
MacBook Pro
So new that just getting.
You probably
For
try to
NetBoot.
have the
for NetBoot.
ability to try to-
There's a couple of them out there that do.
Right.
It depends on the internal chipset.
Yeah,
Also,
it was easier for us to get the Apple adapter next to adapter thing than it was trying to go through and order some of those. Especially in like the beginning of this year,
Is that USB?
you could not get
Old
any
to new.
adapters anywhere. And that was like the state of affairs for like a couple of months.
make it longer.
Oh my God, that is awesome. Where'd you get that?
eBay. Amazon. It's $8. It's a little, just a tiny metal adapter. Works awesome.
How does that do?
It's just USB,
3.1 to USB-C.
USB-C to USB-A. That's all it does. Put a little light on it, but it works. Yeah, it honestly, it saved me from having to buy new USB sticks, because I was gonna buy double-ended USB sticks. I'd rather just buy a bunch of those.
Would you get that again?
That,
Yeah, there's,
Amazon.
oh, just Amazon. Thank you,
I'll
John.
put that up there too.
Thank you, John.
That'll go through on my Christmas list.
All right, the second thing, and I've asked this before, but now I really need, I need to get up on my batch scripting for real this time, because I'm probably the only one writing scripts. What's the best book? Yeah, I think you mentioned like a Penguin Press one, or not a Penguin Press.
O'Reilly.
O'Reilly, yes.
Oral Site's a good place if you have access to it.
Armin
There's a
Briegel's
whole
books
bunch.
are good.
How do you spell that?
Go to his website. It's just the
Armin?
scripting.
Go to the Bash channel and MacAdmins Slack and just pester Doggles.
There's a Humble Bundle right now. and
Yeah,
one of the books
you can
is
probably nerd
Wicked
Slack.
Cool Shell Scripts.
Humble, what?
Humble bundle. It's,
Yeah, Humble Bundle.
you basically pay what you want and you get certain things.
If they have an ebook bundle right now, and it's all like, a lot of it's like coding in Haskell and stuff, but there's a ton of it.
Honestly, how I learned to do bash scripting was look at other people's code, see what it does, and then
Yes.
just break it apart.
So,
That's
yeah.
all you do. And you and if you don't know what something does, you copy the line and put it into like a VM and just,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
see what it does.
Put it with the terminal, see what happens on your machine.
Yep.
Steal other people's code.
I mean, I use,
It's not stealing, it's sharing.
like I use Adam,
Steal
as a script writer.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah.
It's
But, I mean, there's a lot I need to
Picasso's
learn.
line,
Like all
you know.
the if then and.
Good artists borrow, great artists.
That sort of thing, like that's where I struggle.
You know what really helped me when I was starting? Peter Bukowski gave a Penn State at MacAdmins talk a few years ago called shell building blocks, and it was all like Lego based. That really helped me.
I think,
It was like best practices and stuff. So even when I was writing like crappy scripts,
Codemy also does one.
and I think there might be one from this past JNUC, like shell scripting 101 at JNUC.
Yeah.
There's a nice talk.
There was a good one, actually Armin gave a talk, I think it was at Mac Sysadmin
Right.
this past year.
Yes.
And that's a good one, and he gave a lot of good resources there.
Right.
Like I have Mac Terminal Pocket Guide by O'Reilly, Daniel J. Barrett. Is that like the smaller version?
That's that's probably more like a quick
The quick version, I want probably something better than that, I guess. But O'Reilly? Okay.
Well, like I said, if you want some like actual examples, I would do like a Codemy or
Right.
Like, what is that?
It's really
Codemy?
Is it Codemy or Code Academy?
Code Academy.
Code
There
Academy.
you go.
Okay.
Yeah, really, in order to actually really learn not just Bash, but any language, you really have to get it.
I know.
All right. So Code Academy, you can do that?
Yeah.
And they do have a basic
I imagine you have to pay for
bash.
that. And that's
Right.
great.
So like you can learn the basics, but as lots of people say this, do a project in that language.
Yeah,
And then you'll learn it.
definitely.
So like if you have something you need to get done, you want to do,
Oh,
This is how I was doing Python for a little bit too.
so yeah.
so,
Which I gave up on for a little while.
So copy a lot of stuff from SourceForge,
Yeah.
check to see if it works, see what breaks.
Yeah, that's.
Or now it's GitHub since SourceForge is not
What's SourceForge?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow. That's the one I was thinking. Stack Overflow.
I'm just gonna go find some information on.
Yes.
What was the other one? Flashback.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, and yeah, when you first start out, don't worry about how pretty it looks.
No.
Unless you're using
But do
Python,
comment
where
your
it
code.
matters.
Right. But it matters about.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Always comment your
All
code
shell
though.
scripts are-
No, 'cause I'm gonna need to be doing a lot of scripting, I imagine.
If you're the only person looking at it, it doesn't have to be pretty.
No. But
Get
always,
into the habit.
I guess
Yeah.
because
because you'll never remember why you did something.
I still have like the quick and dirty scripts I wrote like 5 years ago in JSS.
And they still work.
Thing. They still work. I look at them and go, oof.
What was it doing? You remember?
I don't know, just like in general.
Oh.
Like when I look at them, I go, I gotta rewrite that.
It's one of the things you look at, you go, man, what idiot wrote, oh crap, I wrote this.
What the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, it wasn't. It's just like I need to get something done.
Yeah, I mean,
So I don't think there's a bash script that I write now that isn't, because I have a template now that I use through Tech Expander. which does a basic template. But I don't think I have anything that's like less than like 100 lines now.
Give me an hour.
Because I'm doing things like logging and functions and all that stuff. So like the quick and dirty script, there's no such thing as that anymore. So,
Rest assured, anywhere you post your code, somebody will take issue with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, do you guys do that? Do you post your code so I GitHub?
some of that, yeah. I mean, I have a
post
couple
all
of
of
things.
it, just.
A lot of the stuff I have to go and sanitize, which takes some time. And so,
Yeah.
unless I'm coding from the very beginning, thinking about I should post this on GitHub, I have to go back and sanitize it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, basically everything that I do, all my scripts and all my extension attributes go on GitHub. So,
right.
Your extension attributes too?
So, I mean, some of them,
Yeah, I mean-
some of them I really shared out because they didn't happen.
I have.
Yeah.
So we have an internal
Still
GitHub that
have
I'm
one.
managing for all of our current scripts in-house. And I'm hoping at some point that Jamf introduces GitHub integration, which is a feature that more than one person, a lot of people have been asking for.
There's a script for it already. Somebody did a
Yeah.
Git to JSS.
Right.
script.
Right, but that's,
Right.
they can do more things if they actually integrate that.
So, and that's something they're looking to do. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about the packaging is that if you were at JNUC, and if you talked to Ben and saw a couple of his presentations about packaging and how they're doing it at Jamjar, then and DataJar, and basically it's sort of one of those things that there's if you use AutoPackage or AutoPackager right now, there's a very good possibility that Jamf will have AutoPackage integration soon.
They're the ones that tell you to do it. Use it.
No, I mean like it'll actually automatically take over.
They may actually.
So Charles, if you know who Charles Edge is and you know what he does at Jamf, the JSS importer that Craig Shea wrote. What? Shea Craig, sorry.
Is it?
Shea G Craig, the G. They're going to be contributing to some of that code. Because they've been talking, Shay's been talking to Jamf about that. And he recently released the JSS importer 2.0 with Python JSS 1.0. Python JSS 2.0. I don't know. Yeah, and JSS importer 1.0. So yeah, so that's been updated to work better. Some other features are coming as well. Jamf is looking to contribute to that project and maybe take it over, hopefully, because Shay doesn't really have much Jamf access anymore.
Just the JSS importer part of it?
I think they might be doing. I think they might be doing JSS importer specifically. They're definitely talking about contributing. They've had some talks about that. So that's definitely something that I think will be coming down the line. Is more direct auto package integration into JSS, which they'll use for patch management policies. And there's also some other talk about now. I think they changed gears a bit. I think they were given a lot of feedback from a lot of us MacAdmins. I think they're changing how they're approaching patch management a bit, but it's going to basically take them a little bit of time to turn the ship around.
I feel like it's
like a lot of things the MacAdmins and the veteran MacAdmins were saying they should be doing. They weren't really thinking in those terms initially. They were again thinking about more of the teacher who's also the Jamf admin and trying to go for the people who are not who don't get into the weeds every day and are looking for an easy solution and trying to solve that problem first. But we are now sort of realizing that it kind of goes hand in hand with both. At least that's my impression of some of that stuff that they were talking about. So,
yeah, it's not free.
So patch management in Jamf 10 is definitely a work in progress, but it should get better according to everything I've
This company might take me to
But
learn
then
PowerShell.
having them create something from scratch using auto package is probably a better.
Right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, leveraging auto package. I think one of the big things is that for a layman user of the Jamf Pro server, there's a bit of a learning curve with auto package. So, and I think they were thinking that learning curve might have been too steep for some of their customers. So, but I think they're coming around to like, well, we can probably automate some of this for them. So we'll see.
First party support would be great. First party support would be great.
Yeah.
Does anyone have BigFix at their institution? Anyone using that?
No, I talked to IBM. Well, there was some about that because of crack and because of that huge Adobe Flash vulnerability. I forgot to talk about that Adobe Flash vulnerability. That was big. It was like 4 versions of Flash ago. I think it is like some really bad remote code execution vulnerability. And then our security guys were like,
patch all the Flash today, now. And we're like, no worries. So yeah, because that affected like every single platform everywhere, and their security was like, oh my God, patch it all. What's our risk factor? And then VPs got involved, like, when can I, like, how many machines have our patched? And I had to provide numbers. So I think they started talking to Big Fix to sort of IBM about that, because it affected Linux, Linux boxes, as well as Windows and all that. So there's a gap, and I think in our Linux server patching ability. So I think they're looking to Big Fix to sort of fix that. But they were talking to us about the Mac side. I know some of the Mac at IBM guys, and I know that they're not using Big Fix internally. So we've had a couple of conversations, but nothing since then. So.
Yeah, so I asked because in School of Arts and Sciences, we rely heavily on Big Fix for everything from patching to software deployment to we're going to start looking to move from Deploy Studio to that as setup. So I'm trying to kind of reconcile like that with no one in management being interested in depth at all, and kind of trying to figure out like how long can we like weasel our way through.
Not long.
Yeah, so you can't. And the Mac at IBM team doesn't use Big Fix at all.
I hadn't actually heard that. It's pretty powerful, I think. Like anything you can do from a command line, you can do with Big Fix.
Right.
And you can approximate profiles in the sense.
So the Mac and IBM team does a whole depth deployment
They
strategy.
use homebrew like Splash Buddy, right?
Yes, they have like a Splash Buddy like project that like walks the user through what's happening and all that stuff as like a whole user experience built around it. But it's all based on depth. They have customized Jamf instance that they are using, that they're constantly building on. It's a huge infrastructure because they're doing this all across the world, and Big Fix is not really a part of that. So.
And they manage, what is it now, 98,000 max?
No, they're over 100,000 now.
120,000 or something?
Yeah, they're like 120,000, I think.
You should talk to the Penn State people. They use Big Fix at Penn State, but I don't think they do like faculty computers so much. It's more like labs, but they use Big Fix for that. Last time.
Oh, one of the things I was saying is that when we were talking to the Big Fix people, they were aware that since we had Jamf, that they would be leveraging a lot of that stuff if we brought them in to the Macs. So there's that.
The problem with Big Fix is, at least when I used it, it was called Tivoli Endpoint Manager,
Right.
was that you're writing logic for every package installs itself, and then you're importing the package, and then you're doing all this sort of scaffolding work around the thing that you're trying to deploy. It's a lot. I like Monkey. It's free. Just put it out there. But I don't know if Big Fix has gotten better since I used it like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. I spend every hour of every day in it, so like I'm past the learning curve and getting a little defensive as all you guys are like, Big Fix stuff. No, but
I've actually used it.
That's
for what
why
it's worth. I tried to learn relevance.
Well, I mean,
relevance is its own insane beast.
Jim Stewart is really good with that. I worked with him.
Oh, really? Cool.
so I mean, there's a lot of, I think for every organization is different. So I think, I think relying on one particular, just one thing to do everything is probably not the best idea in general, because I mean we're a Jamf shop, but I'm using like auto package and all these other open source tools to augment what I can do or can't do with Jamf, and that's the same. I mean, Monkey did a lot of things for that for a while, but with the changes in that you're now looking to add an NVM and other things to augment things that Monkey can't do.
Sure. We use auto package as well.
Right, and they use auto package for, and all that stuff. So like, I'm wary of any solution that says they can do it all, in general.
Yeah, because UART says we use only Jam. That's all we use because it technically does everything that we need it to do, but it is far from perfect, especially in recent where they've been following the Apple route of QA a little bit sometimes.
Everybody's QA has fallen off.
Yeah,
this last
it's
quarter.
really it's been a bad month for Apple hardware software or Apple software QA for companies.
Yep.
Monkeys and
But I mean, we use Jam for everything. There was a while though where we were doing our own stuff alongside it because just didn't work. Like pushing out MDM profiles or configuration profiles just didn't work properly in Jam. For some reason, just stopped working for us. They had and we opened up case after case with them, and they were not helpful. So we're just like, fine, we're just going to package it up manually and do it ourselves. And
then they fixed it.
And it worked fine. Well, and then we figured out what the problem was before they did. We actually realized that we have 2 dev servers, and the push certs were the same. So things were kind of like getting crossed, and then Jam's like, oh, well, of course, that's what it is. And we're like, but we told you, like, you logged into all of our devs and you didn't find anything, So it was just one of those things where, like, okay, once we figured that out, things started working. But then you start having problems with Casper imaging, where because imaging is dying, even though it's not dead now, they're not going to put time into Casper imaging. So you're going to have, you're going to get some bug fixes, but for the most part, it's just going to be the same thing.
I think one of the things is there's an outstanding bug for enrollment complete, where if the network state change flag goes up or trigger happens, that interrupts enrollment complete, and enrollment complete policies time out for several hours before you can run them again. So so that's an outstanding bug, but but since we're going to, since everybody's moving towards depth, and that's where everybody's development focus is, that's probably not going to be addressed until it doesn't matter anymore.
10.1.1 introduced a new bug where if you're using a web interface to change configurations, or you can't select packages, at all. It just won't let you.
It works fine in JamFadden.
So basically, if you're in the web interface and you're trying to make a configuration, like if you clone a config and you want to select packages, nope, it doesn't work. The checkboxes don't even work. So they're like, yeah, you have to clone it in the web interface and then open up JamFadmin and do it that way. So
that's a no.
It just came out in 10.1.1. It wasn't in 10.1. Just came out in 10.1.1. So
JM10 he still uses Casper.
Yeah, because the JDS is going away. So you still can't upload via web interface.
It's called JamFadmin though.
It's JamFadmin now.
Yeah.
Did they fix that thing where it just crashes all the time?
Yeah, that's been, I gotta say, it's been pretty stable for me for a little while.
I haven't seen
Every
that.
time you try to replicate.
No,
What are you doing?
No, I know. No. I know exactly what you're talking about. It used to do it constantly, and then like you'd open it back up, and you're like, "Oh, my packages were red," because it didn't like propagate. No, it's been pretty stable recently. It's weird because it's a little sluggish when you're trying to drag like a package over to a configuration, but it doesn't crash anymore.
Yeah, I mean, consistently.
Yeah, it will
crash.
Just lagging or
Replicating.
Yeah.
No, I
Just
see
the admin
that.
program.
It'll run into something and it'll just die.
I get to the point where I just keep the volumes open so I can, eject them and then open it back up again.
And if anybody's using a JDS, don't or EOL.
You should not be using a JDS.
What do you use now instead of JDS?
SMB.
Yeah, it's regular file share.
Just regular file share?
Although I've been using the HTTPS.
That's right.
So
And you can use SMB as well?
we're switching it. Well, if
You use SMB
you have to
on-site.
use SMB if you're running High Sierra, and server on High Sierra. You have to use SMB with that because the AFP is essentially dead as of High Sierra.
But you can use HTTPS, which works fine
Right. I mean, you just
You
use
can on site or is it in the cloud?
on site.
You're doing on site or in the cloud?
The new production is both.
Are you using like rsync or anything to auto replicate the shares?
Well, not for new production. For current production, internal production, since I've got about 25, 26 distribution points scattered across the U.S. and in India, most of it's been done through auto package.
No.
Auto package. Yeah, because I have all the DPs listed, and then production run is once every 12 hours. Staging run is once every 6 hours. So I know if something's coming, so I can run an auto package recipe if it's urgent on production, and then it goes and updates all that. But that takes a long time because not all.
He's in the tubes.
Yeah, the tubes are not as fat in some places as they are in others. So,
Anybody here upgrade their production to Jamf 10 yet?
Production?
You did?
Yeah, but we only managed like 140.
You just YOLO and go like, day one, update,
Staging's on 10.
I would if I had that job.
Staging's on 10.1, new production's on 10.0.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about maybe upgrading new production this week, but 10.1 just came out on Monday. I had to upgrade staging first. So
What do you have your JSS on hardware-wise?
which one?
How many JSSs do you have?
I have 3 instances now: current production, legacy production, new production, and staging.
Are they on 3 different pieces of hardware, or are they on VMs? Or?
So legacy production is running on a Mac Mini currently. Staging production is running on a Red Hat 6.9 VM and a Windows 2012 server VM. The 2012 server VM is sitting in our DMZ, so staging is accessible on and off the network. I also have an internal distribution point, also a Mac Mini for that, and we use Box as the external distribution point. Although probably going away as we're trying to divest all of our Box accounts in favor of OneDrive. So I'll probably just throw something up in our DMZ for that as well. New production is 8 Red Hat servers, load balanced and spread across different data centers across the country. And that's available on and off the network. I have currently 1 distribution point for new production that's that's also a VM sitting in our DMZ that's available both internally and externally now.
Yours on.
We run, so our dev is just on a Parallels VM on a Mac Mini. It's literally only for testing now. We have 40 machines in it, that's it. And we don't even use Dell. But our production is it's a Dell, it's a physical Dell server running Red Hat. I think we're 7. So that's a physical machine now.
Yeah, so the Mac Mini I'm running production on is a 3.7 gigahertz with the terabyte SSD in it and 60 gigs of RAM. So it's been pretty stable for the last year or so. I had to get off the Xserve that was running forever. So.
We saw
It's still running. I haven't pulled out all of our other Xserves are gone to the great rack in the sky. That's what we haven't pulled out yet.
We still have 2 running. 2 Xserves
Well, my
running.
other Xserve was running, but like it had the RAID card in it. And, like the battery's dead now in it, so I get warnings on it all the time. So it's not caching the extra data, so it's a little slower now. The drives are 6 years old in it, so they're all slow. Even though it's RAID 5, it was still
Running
slow.
on a prayer.
And also, it's like the Xserve 09, so you can't upgrade it to Sierra or High Sierra. So
You mean the best Xserve?
the last Xserve. So yeah, I mean, it's still in the rack, it's still on, but we have nothing on it.
We run our.
Well, like maybe that's
Like 2-hour appointments.
If I need to, I'll have to, I can grab the historical database and restore it to something else if I need to grab data from it. But,
And I'm hoping
yeah, it's just kind of sitting there now.
between that. Something like that.
So,
They're pushing their data.
new production should be
Because
fun.
they have backups.
Excited to see
So being able to
how the
migrate
DMs
to
hold
another
up.
computer and
So, and see if I need to add more DMs, but I overly engineered that. Because initially, we were engineering for the Time Warner merger. That never happened. So it was built to handle, because at the time, we were at 3,000 max, and they were at 3,000 max. So we engineered for that plus growth. So yeah, we should be fine on this now. But, you know, we'll see.
I don't know if anybody else knows.
Unfortunately, it's like nothing to spin up a new VM with our system. Like it has something up and running within like a day or two.
Would you use VMware or do you use?
Oh, we actually we're a huge VMware shop.
You log in.
Use here.
Huge racks and racks and racks of VM hosts in the data centers.
You get your departmental.
Are you staying in that building? Or are you staying in the?
I am staying in the old building, yes. I don't think they're moving me over to the new building.
Or staying in a 10-year-old building.
No, that's fine, that's fine, because the new building's all open floor plan, so. So that's fine. You know, all the app dev people on the other side of our floor currently can move to the new building, and then I will take over a cube or office, that's fine.
You'll take over a whole floor.
Yeah. I'll take over the rest of the floor, and I can get like cube or office, yeah, that's fine.
The Mac floor.
When it's coming along, I saw some pictures of how it's going.
Same network and then you connect to it.
I think NBC 10 is moving in this month.
Are they?
Yeah. Well, all the lower floors, I think, are done. And yeah, they're finished but not furnished.
I got to see the 37th floor before the walls were up. Like you could almost just walk out and die. It was right when I got hired. Yeah.
Oh, and this building here?
Yeah.
Yes. And no,
like where Mario's office was, there was like no window. It was just.
Right. So,
Is that still intact, that 37th suite? Or do they, I mean, you're not in there, so, but.
No, purchasing's in there now. And we moved to where the storage room was. And where purchasing was, they opened it up, and that's where the tech bar is. So, I saw pictures of where the new tech bar is going to be in the new building. And it's going to look pretty slick. So. So what?
Is everyone?
Yep. So yeah. So they'll probably be behind the tech bar in the new building as well. So they'll be jobless, in case people are interested in.
Staff in the bar.
Level 1 in Joe.
Yes. Tech bars like help desk.
Yeah.
But a little higher grade. And so far, nobody's made the jump from tech bar to anything else yet. But it's only been around. It's only been 2 years, I think.
And your desktop support, are they all contracts again? Are they all outsourced or?
No. We've been doing a lot more conversions, and management wants to convert more contractors in the coming years. I think it's cheaper. Primarily because I think it's cheaper. They convert this person. Yeah. So there's been an overall shift among management to say less contractors, more employees. So that's where they're thinking. So they've been converting a lot of people. Yeah.
I think typically now, it's, if you might get hired as a contractor, and then after a year, you'll probably get converted. If you're not hired as an employee right away.
Are you using the automatic address?
I started, and then.
So there you go.
There we have it.
Install it.
Oh, so that other doc that I was thinking of is the other CalDigit doc. They have the two models. One's a smaller one. It's I think it doesn't do full power delivery. It only does the 65 watt. The nice thing about that one though is it has USB-C downstream, single USB downstream port, in addition to the two Thunderbolt ports. The other one does full power delivery. It's a bit more robust and has eSATA ports for reasons.
Yeah, there's two of them, like.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever used an external eSATA connection?
Yeah, but only to keep. I had one of the original LaCie Big 4 raids that was FireWire USB 2 and eSATA. And
that's when eSATA was faster.
yeah, eSATA was faster, so I got a USB 3 to eSATA adapter and connected it that way, so I could bunch it for its replacement.
Yeah. We need to hit the red button.
Might as well cut this off at this point.
Yeah, we have anything else we want to discuss to the general public or anything? All right, well then, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see everybody next year.
Yeah.
And, have a happy holiday.
Social gathering this year.
Yeah.